squish that in. Hello. Hi, so we haven't done a what I eat in a day in a while, and I thought that I would do kind of like a lighter summer edition for you, because usually we do it during like the fall or winter. I think it's because like the food is a lot more hearty, and I don't know, I tend to decide to do it then. Let's start off with lunch first, because I don't do these things in order anyways. You know that I have been doing my whole food plant-based thing just for a little bit now. Sometimes I like deviate away because I get snacky, but in general these are pretty mainstay. They're like super healthy, they make me feel super good, and I'm quite happy with them. So we're doing lunch first, and I generally really like a BLT, but I do it with smoked tofu, tomatoes, a green, usually a kale, and then what I like to spread onto like a sourdough bread is a pesto. I really like pestos on things, and so I have this really easy recipe for like any herb pesto. And so what I was squishing here is, I don't know if this happens to you, but like it's a lot more economical for me to buy herbs in bulk. But a lot of the times the herbs, they go bad, they wilt. Not particularly parsley, but sometimes like basil, that'll happen too. So what I've done here is I got like a big bunch of parsley, maybe like a week ago, and I couldn't finish it, but parsley stays quite well. But what I do is I stick everything, like stem and all, into like a container, and then I stick it into the freezer so that it's just frozen, and then afterwards I kind of like squish it so that it just breaks up, and then anytime I need really like essentially fresh parsley, I'll use it. But what I'm doing here, I should have done it in another way, but we'll just put everything together and say that this is how I do it. So with the pesto, I mean, okay, if you're doing this with like basil, I think like parsley is a little bit better, but obviously like when it melts, the whole thing might turn a bit brown. But I think for herbs, especially because we're going to be blending this whole thing together, it's okay, because I end up finishing this spread in like 2 or 3 days, and I don't really mind the color too much. So it's like, what, 30, 40 grams of like an herb of your choice. So you can do basil, you can do parsley, you can mix in some dill if you like the flavor of that. Generally I put the herbs in last. I think I got a little excited there. 3 cloves of garlic, because I really like that. For the nuts, so a lot of the times when people make like just like a normal basil pesto, they'll use pine nuts. Pine nuts are really expensive. You need 1/3 of a cup of nuts. 1/3 of a cup. So, oh, okay, it's really low. Okay, come back up. Generally, like pine nuts, for me anyways, or in this part of the world, it's pretty expensive. I think in most places it's pretty expensive. So you can use whatever nuts you like. Walnuts, obviously super high in all of like the good omega fatty acids, and it's quite a healthy nut. So I use walnuts, but then there are times when, nuts are really expensive as well. So when we talk about kind of the economics of eating healthily, we do have to talk about costs. So, this is how precarious it is, because I have so much food in all of these drawers. So what was I saying? Ugh. It's probably not this, but a lot of the times, like when like different seeds or nuts are on sale, I'll try to get them if I can, like in bulk. I wasn't going to pick pumpkin seeds because pumpkin seeds are kind of expensive as well, but sunflower seeds, a lot of the times they're really inexpensive, especially like when maybe like the healthy food store does some kind of like a special, like buy 2 get 1 free or something. I'll put that in. So you can use nuts or seeds, whatever works for you. They're, you know, they're healthy in general. And so I'll put the ingredients down below. So what? There's parsley, there's garlic, there's walnuts. For the liquid ingredients, well, hold on, wait. For it to be salty, generally I would say like a half a teaspoon of miso really does it, but depending on you, you can add a little bit more, like at the end after you finish whizzing everything together. You can see if you like it. I am also a big fan of like my pestos being really sour. So generally I would say like a half a lemon. Like if you have a really juicy lemon, you know, give it a go, like do that. But like I think a half a lemon is good. And then depending on your mixer or your blender, generally you might want like a couple tablespoons of, let's just do one first, like 1 tablespoon of water, just to make sure that everything blends, and then we'll see how that goes. So, not sponsored, but, and it could be, I got one of these Cuisinart, what is it? Cordless choppers, which is great because, especially like filming for you guys, or you all, you can just, I don't know how, this is probably not safe. But you can just blend without a cord, which is great, especially for like small kitchens. My kitchen's not small, but it's small because we have to film. But you know, you can bring it over here. Like sometimes if you don't have counter space, you can bring it over there. I'll link this down below. But it's quite a good chopper, especially for like pestos and like maybe like sauces and salsas. Generally though, you have to cut everything quite small before you put it in. Otherwise it does get jammed up. And it's just, yeah, it's just, to make things go smoother, you do have to cut it up a bit. Okay, so you can see, actually it's chopped up everything pretty good. In terms of viscosity, I actually probably would prefer this to be a bit thinner, just so that I can spread it, but actually this is pretty good. I just put this into a container. And if you make a lot of it, you can freeze it and then thaw it, and you can use it the same way. Might have added a bit too much water at the end. Oops, that's okay. So generally I make enough for like 2 batches, just so that you're not wasting your time, you know. So that I'll just, okay, so that I'll just stick into the freezer, and then you can use it for like next week's sandwiches. Okay, so now you are going to watch me make my sandwich. Spelt sourdough. If most of you remember, I'm not like a big fan of wheat. I don't like the taste of wheat. I don't like the taste of wheat. So sourdough really works for me because it's sour, and that sourness covers up the flavor of wheat. So I'm a big fan of that. And then also with sandwiches, like I do like a warm lunch. Like I do like to be able to heat up a lunch, but recently I've been doing a lot of projects where I've had to be on the road and on the go, and I've just needed to have just like a sandwich with me. So generally I'll have the pesto on the bread for like the bacon. I'll have, I don't know if anybody else has the tofu brand, but they make like a smoked tofu, and it's very it's like a super extra firm tofu, but just like that slight smokiness is really nice. They don't put anything else in there, it's just smoked. So I'm not able to eat the whole thing all at once, so yeah, I don't really want to open up another one, so we'll just open that up. Just do that. I'll generally put more tofu in, right? So then, you know, I'll just like put this down here. So you can see, there you go. And then lots of substitutions today. So I get this like what is it, like ugly or like unwanted fruits and vegetables box. Let me just wash this. And I don't have tomatoes with me today, so sometimes when I don't have a tomato and I still want something kind of like citric-y or like, you know, acidy in my sandwich, I'll do a couple slices of apples. It's easier to build if you put a majority of all of the fillings on one side. Okay, there you go. And then I'll usually do it with kale, but in the box there was chard, and then a red onion. Some people don't like red onion, but I'm a big fan of the allium family. I was just working with someone like 2 weeks ago, and they were saying how they have an allium allergy, which I don't know many people having. It's just a very difficult allergy to have because everybody uses garlic, everybody uses onion. And so, well, what you'll find is like eventually when I finally do my video on allergies is like usually it has something to do with the proteins in that like fruit, vegetable, or in that meat or whatever. And so when you cook it, it denatures and it kind of like kills off some of those proteins. And so what you might find is that it is easier to eat garlic and onions, assuming that you don't have like a death allergy, if it's cooked. Like when it's cooked, your stomach or like you might have like a better reaction to these. So I'll just put that in here. I'm just gonna, so I only have the onions here. Okay. And then usually I'll wrap this up in paper, in baking paper. Okay. That did not wrap up well at all. Okay, hold on. This piece of paper is too small. I am the worst wrapper. Alright, anyways, whatever. So, whatever. That is my sandwich. Then I'll like stick some like elastic bands or something around it, and then I'll cut it in half, and it's really, really good. Okay, so we're back for breakfast. You all know what I eat for breakfast already because I made a video about it before, which is usually either groats, black sesame oatmeal, or pancakes. Recently I've had a slight reliance on pancakes because I think I've just had oatmeal for too long in a row, and I've just been kind of rebelling against it recently, which is not a good thing. But let me show you how to make the pancakes much easier. I don't know if I'll do the full thing, but what I've been doing is I've been making the pre-mix ahead of time so that when I do want pancakes, I can just mix in the liquid ingredients and then have everything really ready to go. So let me just show you what I do. I don't know, I think a lot of whole food plant-based eating, it's awful because you do have to make things on your own all the time. Like everything has to be made from scratch. Everything has to be homemade, and it's really annoying. So, you know, when you do find things in the grocery stores that you can eat, it's great because you tend to stock up on it. But then, really, it's about a lot of it is about like either batch cooking if you have the space, which I don't, or just things that you can make ahead of time, like spice mixes or like a pancake mix like this. So I have this is really dirty, but I recently just ground some flour in it. So what I have is my blender here, and I always make it like this because, we'll explain it later. Let's say for about 10 to 12 pancakes, okay? A cup of oats, and I just buy oatmeal pretty much in bulk. Oats. Don't do that. A cup of oats, and then a cup of oats, and then a cup of any other grain. So if you, generally I like it to be buckwheat. I think that the combination works really, really well, like for really nice and fluffy pancakes. But if buckwheat is not available in your area, if it's too expensive in your area, you can use any other grain that you want. I would say if you did it all with oats, it would be a little bit too soft, but you could play around with it. Today, I only have probably about 1/3 of a cup of buckwheat left. Okay, so you can mix it with anything else. So if you don't mind gluten, you can mix it with a little bit of barley. So we can do that. And it's nice because foods work kind of synergistically together. Like, it's nice to have different grains because it's like kind of more good gut bacteria, or like more good or more different fibers for your gut. So, you know, you can do a little bit of barley. And then I buy all of these things in bulk. I have some millet here. Generally, if you use different types of grains, they cook differently, meaning like sometimes they take longer to brown as a pancake than other grains. So you're just gonna have to play around with it. Like, some grains are more fibrous, some grains absorb more liquid, so you might find that you need a little bit more water or a little bit more milk to add to that. So that's that. Okay, so those are your grains. It's 1 cup of oats, and then another cup of whatever grains that you have. It could be sorghum as well. I've tried that. And then because this makes 2 servings of pancakes, essentially I have like 5 or 6 each batch. Where are you? For each batch, I add 2 tablespoons of flax seeds. Flax seeds are great because they are high in the omega-3 to 6 ratio. Where my area is, it's really inexpensive, or it's pretty inexpensive. So I put 2 tablespoons for each batch. So there's currently 4 tablespoons, a 1/4 cup. What's nice about flax is that it'll thicken up your batter really nicely, as well as getting kind of your omega-3s or like your fats for the day. So there's that. Depending on how you like your pancakes, I mean, this does not really make it too sweet, but it does offer a little bit of like a basic sweet flavor. Dates. So for each batch, I use about 5 dates. So this, I'm gonna put in 10. And yeah, it's one of those, I don't necessarily think you need to put it in there, but it adds bulk, it adds fiber, and then 2, a little bit of flavor. So it actually thickens the whole batter really nicely. The issue with dates, though, when they're dried like this, is every so often they have left a pit in my dates. And so when I go to grind them up, sometimes it doesn't grind up, and then you're eating your pancake, and if you're like a heavy chewer like I am, not a good thing, not a good thing. So what I've started doing is I've just started to like kind of rip them in half just to make sure that there's no pit in there. And the reason that I do it like this in a blender with the dates is generally for whole food plant-based cooking, when you're using like a sugar, right, you use dates. And yes, they do sell date sugar in like an easy form where it's all pulverized and you can, you know, use it by the spoonful. But sorry, I always do this. And you can use it by the spoonful, but date sugar is really expensive. it is a lot of dates. They have to dehydrate it and hydrate it, and I've tried to actually make it before, and it's a pain. So date sugar is really expensive. So what I always do when I do need something pulverized like date sugar is I find like a flour that I need to make it with, and I put the dates in and I put the flour in, or the grains in, and I just blend it in a high-speed blender together, and that will make kind of your date sugar but within the flour as well. So that is all. In terms of the dry ingredients, I put the baking powder in, and you don't have to put it in if you don't want to. I put the baking powder in at the end just because I have to separate this into 2 separate batches, and sometimes the baking powder can sink to the bottom, and I just want to make sure that everything is equal. So for dinner, this is going to be a really good one because sometimes, like my aim for what I eat in a day is generally per season is to just find the dishes that I've been cooking like over and over again that I've been really liking, and then I put it into these videos. But sometimes that doesn't always happen season by season. But this time, so I do a tofu tikka masala. I found this recipe originally on Spruce Eats, and they do it with tofu, but the ingredients that they used, I kind of cross-checked it with like actual Indian recipes for like a chicken tikka, even though it's more of like a British invention. But I crossed it with a couple of like more authentic Indian recipes, and I kind of found that they added different spices to it instead. So I've been playing around with this one for a while, and magical. Okay, I think the original recipe called for like cashews and like cashew milk and stuff, and that can be really expensive as well. So I've subbed it just with like yogurt, and it's like tofu. I use the smoked tofu again. If you don't have smoked tofu, just go with whatever tofu you have because it's really good. A can of tomatoes, like a half a carton of yogurt, and then I have all of these spices that you can put into a jar beforehand so that each time when you make it, it's going to be so much easier for when you prep dinner because you're going to have all of the spices, dump that in, dump your tomatoes in, a little bit of yogurt, dump that in, and then cut in your tofu, and just mix all of that together, and it's so quick. Like you could make this 15 minutes, but then you have to make your rice like at the same time, and it's really, really good. So let me show you how to make the spice mix first, and then we'll put everything together. This is the spice mix for the tikka. I have half a teaspoon of the following, so I'm going to make a couple batches. Half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of turmeric, garam masala, half a teaspoon of chilies, but if you are not great with chilies, you can put a little bit less. then we have 1 teaspoon of a smoked but sweet paprika. And this is kind of what makes it British, but it makes it smoky and it's so good. A tablespoon of this this fenugreek leaf, and this just provides like a nice kind of it's slightly like bitter, but it's slightly like medicinal, and it adds a really nice kind of depth to the tikka. So this is pretty much your spice mix. So when you go and make the tofu tikka later, or next week, you just throw all this together. This is all the dry stuff, and then afterwards I'll show you how I put it together with like yogurt and all of the rest of the liquidy stuff. I'm quite lazy, so what I do is the grocery store sells these cubes of crushed ginger and crushed garlic, and they are really good. There's nothing in them. And I'll take a ginger, and because I like garlic, I'll put 2 garlic cubes in here. So everything goes in here, because I kind of found that whether I, like sauteed onions or like garlic or something beforehand, it vaguely ended up tasting the same. So then I said, okay, let's not deal with this. Everything goes in to one pot. So this is half a carton of, let's see, is this 400 grams? So 200 grams of like a soy yogurt, or just like something that's not sweetened, something that's just yogurt. A can of crushed tomatoes. And I like changed it to a can because originally it was not really, but then what am I gonna do with like a quarter can of tomatoes left, right? Tofu. It's like 350 grams of tofu, so very close to a pound of tofu. And then for salt, we're gonna go in with miso, so like a tablespoon and a half, but you can adjust later. Okay. And then actually what really finishes this dish off is after it's cooked, I add a ton of cilantro to it. So much. I put in like 1 full cup of cilantro in here because it just makes that big of a difference. But it didn't film. Oh gosh. So last thing is dessert, assuming that we eat dessert every day. I don't actually have the proper melon, but one of my favorite things to make as a dessert for summertime, you know, you don't really want to be in the kitchen too much and like you want everything to be really quick, is me. Melon milk. Melon milk is so good if you haven't had it before. So pretty much, usually I take like a cantaloupe or like a honeydew, but you can do it with just like a red melon as well. And for each, I would say melon, this is a pretty small one, but like let's say if it was a cantaloupe, it was a little bit bigger. For each serving, I would take a half of a cantaloupe and then mix it with about a cup of like soy milk or oat milk or whatever you want. And where you want to adjust is it really depends on the sweetness or like the tanginess of your melon and also what you like, because to adjust for the flavor, I might put in 1 or 2 dates, stick that into the blender and then blend that all up, and it's the perfect smoothie. Sometimes when you have a really sweet melon, obviously you don't need to do that at all. Sometimes when your melon is too sweet, I will take like a little bit of lemon juice and just like add that in. But that you can do towards the end. Just like blend the kind of like the milk and the melon together, see how that tastes, and then adjust accordingly. It's like another day. I found a better melon to use. I just got water over everything, so I'm sorry. So yeah, I get something called Odd Box, if anybody else has it, but it's pretty much like every 2 weeks I get fruit and vegetables that is either like not good enough for the grocery stores, or they produced, a lot of the times it's just like they overproduced it, or it's like too ugly, too whatever. But the problem with like a lot of their fruit is like usually like you need to eat it pretty quickly. So anyways, I got sent a cantaloupe, but it's like a honeydew. Ugh. Did you see that? Because I was like, oh, this bit's soft. That poked right through. Okay. I mean, to be honest, it's really good for melon milk because then you know it's super ripe. Everything's, you know, very sweet. Because originally I did recommend, like, if it wasn't sweet enough, you can always put in a couple of dates. But this cantaloupe's ripe. I've been meaning to use my phone a bit more when I shoot. Which is like really the opposite of a couple of years ago. I was like, I should use a big girl camera and do it that way, but I just think the phone is so much more intimate. So I have my gross little Vitamix. Okay, hold on. Okay, so I brought my gross little gross little Vitamix here that I want to replace, but they're just so expensive. And so I'm kind of trying to look at like maybe like a stainless steel one to replace it with. It's still expensive, but I don't know if it'll fit. Because I just imagine this thing is like microplastics 100% of the way, which is fabulous. Fabulous adding microplastics to your food. We all have it. Surprise. Why did I do it like that? I started talking to you all and then I was like, I'll cut it like a mango. That is not true. We don't cut like that. It's like kind of like a milkshake, right? But I don't know. I think with a very ripe melon, when you blend it like this, it turns like into an ice cream. Like it's good enough, it's creamy enough to serve as ice cream. And same thing for like something like a mango, because mangoes are so they're so fibrous, but when you blend it, that fiber kind of turns into like cream, right? So a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll buy like a bag of the frozen mangoes. That way you know that they're at least ripe, I guess. I don't know if that's true. Like I know that they freeze it at the peak of ripeness. But anyways, I get frozen mangoes. I get frozen mangoes and I mix it with just some either like soy milk or oat milk, whatever you want. And then same thing, if it's not sweet enough, I'll add a couple dates. If it's too sweet, I'll mix in a little bit of lemon juice. So that's that. Then I have the Oatly Light. It's the only Oatly that I can find without oil in it.
It has like some other stuff in it though. Usually I'm just interested in oats and water, so you could totally just... I just guesstimate this. Back, I got this all's glass. I don't know. So this is good enough for a dessert. Like I promise you, it is like eating ice cream. Especially like if you wanted to, you could freeze the melon as well. I think it's something about honeydew melons and cantaloupe melons because they are so sweet, and they have that fiber that when you blend it with milk, it's already like it's extra creamy, so it tastes like ice cream. All right, great. So that is what I eat in a day. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope that these recipes make it a little bit easier and a little bit more fun to like try whole food plant-based, because it is the gold standard of eating. You eat this way, and you know, I really do think like you just feel healthier, you live healthier, everything pays itself forward. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will let me know what you think of the recipes, and I will see you all again next time, okay? All right, bye.